Carl Jung, the pioneering Swiss psychiatrist, introduced the concept of the shadow self, the parts of our personality we reject, suppress, or deny. These include traits like anger, jealousy, fear, and pride. From childhood, we learn to disown these aspects to gain love and approval. For example, a child who is told, "Good girls don't get angry," learns to hide their anger, burying it deep within. We present a polished version of ourselves to the world, but this fractured state drains our energy and creates internal conflict. Imagine trying to hold a beach ball underwater. It takes constant effort, and eventually your arms tire and it bursts forth unpredictably. Similarly, suppressing our shadow leads to unexpected outbursts, anxiety, or self-sabotage. Understanding the shadow is not about indulging negativity, but reclaiming your wholeness. Just as a coin has two sides, every personality has light and dark aspects. By acknowledging the shadow, we stop fighting ourselves and begin the journey toward authentic integration. This is the first step in a transformative process that can change your life. Denying your shadow doesn't make it disappear. It goes underground, influencing your behavior unconsciously. You might find yourself inexplicably irritated by others' flaws, a classic sign of projection. For instance, someone who denies their own greed may become morally outraged at a colleague's ambition, unaware that they are seeing their own disowned trait. This saps your vitality and keeps you stuck in patterns of victimhood. The energy spent maintaining a false self is immense, like holding a heavy mask in place all day. In extreme cases, the shadow can manifest as addiction, chronic illness, or depression. Consider the passive-aggressive person who never expresses anger directly but uses sarcasm and sabotage instead. By facing your shadow, you free up that energy for authentic living. As Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Denial is like ignoring a leak in your boat. Eventually, the water rises and sinks you. Acknowledging the shadow is the only way to navigate safely. Shadow work is the conscious process of integrating rejected parts of yourself. Think of it as alchemy, turning lead into gold. It involves acknowledging your shadow traits without judgment, understanding their origin, and finding constructive ways to express them. For example, anger can be channeled into assertiveness or creative drive. Envy can become motivation. Practical exercises include journaling about what triggers you, dialoguing with your shadow in meditation, or working with a therapist. Imagine your shadow as a neglected child who only acts out because they feel ignored. When you listen to them with compassion, they calm down and reveal their gifts. This isn't about becoming your darkness, but making peace with it. The goal is wholeness, not perfection. Each integration is like reclaiming a lost piece of your soul. When you integrate your shadow, you reclaim your authentic power and become the author of your life. No longer a victim of hidden forces. It's a journey of self-discovery that leads to greater freedom and creativity. The concept of shadow integration appears across cultures and epochs. In Greek mythology, the hero's journey often involves descending into the underworld, a metaphor for confronting the shadow. For instance, Orpheus travels to Hades to retrieve his beloved, facing his deepest fears. Similarly, in alchemy, the Negrito phase represents the initial darkening and decomposition necessary for transformation, like composting old material to fertilize new growth. In Kabbalah, the Qliphoth shells are the impure forces that must be understood and elevated rather than destroyed. These traditions teach that true growth requires facing our inner demons. The Seventh Journey series by Robert J.R. Graham mirrors this. The protagonist must integrate his ultimate shadow to achieve wholeness. Even in modern stories like Star Wars, Luke must confront the dark side within himself before becoming a Jedi. Mythology reminds us that the path to light leads through darkness. By engaging with these narratives, we see that our personal struggles are part of a universal human experience, a rite of passage into greater consciousness. Begin by observing your projections. When you strongly dislike something in another, ask yourself if that trait exists in you. For example, if you're annoyed by someone's arrogance, reflect on times when you've acted similarly. Keep a shadow journal. Write about your triggers, dreams, and recurring patterns. Dreams are especially potent as they often reveal shadow content directly. Practice self-compassion. Remember, these parts were once protective. They helped you survive difficult situations. Another technique is active imagination. In a meditative state, invite your shadow to speak and listen without judgment. You can also work with a therapist or coach trained in depth psychology. Start small. Perhaps explore a mild annoyance like impatience with slow drivers. Over time, you'll build the courage to face deeper wounds. Each integration brings more energy, creativity, and authenticity into your life. Think of it as cleaning out a cluttered closet. It's messy at first, but the space and clarity you gain are worth it. The key is consistency and gentleness with yourself. When you integrate your shadow, you stop being a passive victim of your unconscious. You gain access to the energy previously tied up in suppression, like unblocking a dam. Your relationships improve as you project less and accept others' flaws. For instance, instead of being triggered by a partner's neediness, you recognize your own need for connection. Creativity flourishes because you're no longer censoring parts of yourself. Your art becomes more nuanced and powerful. Most importantly, you develop authentic power, not the power to control others, but the power to be truly yourself. This is the fragile to resilient shift. You exchange a brittle positivity for a grounded, compassionate strength. As Jung wrote, the shadow is the door to individuation. Wholeness is not about being good, but being whole. You become like a tree with deep roots, able to weather storms without breaking. The reward is not perfection, but genuine freedom. You live from a place of inner alignment, where every part of you has a voice and a purpose. Robert J.R. Graham's Resonance Code trilogy offers a powerful allegory for shadow work. The protagonist faces an inner adversary, Edward Aiden, who represents the part that tries to hide or destroy pain. In contrast, Jacob Cross embodies the composer, the conscious self that courageously faces and integrates all parts. This mirrors our own internal battle. We can either be possessed by our shadow, letting it control our actions unconsciously, or integrate it to create a masterpiece of a life. The story illustrates that our greatest battles are within, and true victory lies in courageous acceptance rather than avoidance. For example, when the protagonist finally listens to Edward Aiden's fears, he transforms him from an enemy into an ally. By engaging with such narratives, we gain insight into our own journey toward wholeness. Fiction often speaks truth more directly than theory, allowing us to experience shadow work emotionally. These stories remind us that integration is not a one-time event, but an ongoing process of embracing our full humanity.